Welcome to Apricot Tree Academy's Dyslexia Awareness Month podcast series. This October, we're sharing real stories from parents, educators, and advocates whose lives have been shaped by dyslexia. We are here to share stories with families everywhere about how dyslexia is not a limitation. It's a difference in how the brain learns, and with the right tools, support, and understanding, every child can succeed. We're so glad you're here to listen, learn, and stand with us in spreading awareness and hope for all children with dyslexia.
All right, so welcome back to our Dyslexia Awareness Month podcast series. Today, we're excited to welcome a very special guest to the show. She is the author of Discovering My Dyslexia Superpowers, a powerful and inspiring book that sheds light on the unique strengths and perspective that comes with dyslexia. Through her story, she encourages others to see beyond the struggles and to recognize the creativity, resilience, and problem-solving skills that so many individuals with dyslexia possess. Please join me in welcoming Megan Nicolas to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're so glad to have you.
I'm glad to be here.
Before I get started, I just want to show everyone your book. This is it. I got it. I actually have two kiddos who are dyslexic and two others, and all four of them read it. They all love it, the styling and all that stuff. So let's talk a little bit about your book. Can you share a little bit about your background and what inspired you to write this book?
Yes, definitely. First of all, thank you for having me on your podcast, and thank you for everything you're doing to spread awareness and advocacy and or encourage others. So thanks for inviting me on. I live in Kansas City with my family. I'm an occupational therapist. I've worked in a variety of different settings. Right now, I work in the mental health setting in a hospital, and then where I spend more of my professional time is at a dyslexia school, and we work with children with dyslexia and other language-based disorders. My personal experiences, I have twins that are 12 years old now, and early in our journey of seeing how they were growing and learning and interacting with their education, it was kind of obvious to me that one of my children learned differently. And really what stuck out first was his exceptional skills in certain areas that now I know oftentimes accompany a dyslexic brain. But at that time, I just thought he had these really great skills with certain things, and reading didn't come easily. So there was something I needed to investigate. So that's kind of my personal connection, and my inspiration for writing this story came from within my own family.
I have to ask, just a follow up, did you have a hard time finding books that were interesting to your child that was kind of geared towards somebody who has dyslexia?
There was this like one aha moment. So after we learned that he had dyslexia and he went through his reading intervention and really soared quickly, he wanted to find a children's book about dyslexia. So this was several years ago, and we went to our local library, and the one that my boys brought back to me had a child on the front with her head hurting, and she was grabbing her head, looked like she had a headache, and she was grimacing. And I thought, well, we can try to read this. And so the first few pages, it talked about struggles and struggling. It's mentioned it several times. So we didn't finish the book. And immediately my boys said, we need to write an encouraging book. And I said, yes, we do. And inside I thought, I have no idea how to do that, but we do need to write one. So I got work on this, got right to work with writing this book, and with some input from my boys, we found a publisher, and they matched us with an anime artist. We were wanting that anime style that's popular in elementary age students. And so it's a graphic novel that just what we felt like filled the need and what he was looking for that day, and we didn't see it. And I know there are other encouraging books, but that was our experience that day, and that's what spurred on this putting our own story out there for others.
It's evident to me that so many stories of people that we've talked to where their kids have dyslexia, they see a need and then they do something about it. Anyway, I just love your story behind this book. So,
oh, thank you. And there was a lot of other emotions that happened in our journey. That's probably on other podcasts that you're sharing the difficult parts of the journey. And I think it was that, those feelings that inspired us to help others. If those are powerful emotions, or anger at our system that's broken. And this was a way that we could, start to join the movement for awareness and advocacy. And I think that's the first step before change can really happen, is that people are aware of these brilliant minds and that they just need a different way to learn. So this was one way for us to be part of that.
So I love how you pointed out some of the features of the book, that it's an anime style, and what's the type of book? Sorry, reminds me
Like
again.
graphic novel.
Graphic novel, thank you. The ones that are popular with the kids, but also those are the ones that they gravitate to, I've noticed. So I think that's why my kids love this book so much, is because it was something they enjoyed. They liked that, but then the message. So tell us about the message in the book.
I'm glad it was something that your kids enjoyed. We've heard from other people that, and it feels so good hearing from others that it was a story and the illustrations kind of matched what they were looking forward to. So that's what we were hoping for. The story follows my own son's journey, because that's what's easy for us to tell. We're just telling our own story. So the story came easily, and we talk about throughout his journey. We mention the word journey often. It was a little stormy in the beginning, and it wasn't anything to do with my child. It was because of our system, or we didn't have him figured out yet, or the teachers didn't have the right training to identify what was going on. And so we know that everyone's story is not exactly the same, but it does seem to be that there is common themes with families with children with dyslexia, that people maybe don't think anything's wrong, and then we seek other advice, and then they go through programs. And in the book, we talk about normalizing the phrases like, I received a dyslexia diagnosis, and I went to structured literacy intervention. So throughout our book, we kind of normalize all of those things. And this boy in the book that's based off my son, he has so many great gifts, and he has those gifts in the beginning, but then as he receives the appropriate education, all of these gifts start to really be unlocked, and he can soar, and he identifies certain things that maybe that is not despite dyslexia, he's able to do something, but perhaps it's because of dyslexia in his mind that has such excellent skills, why he can soar in certain areas. And then he lists that there's loads of other people with these superpowers. It's not just him. There's plenty of famous people throughout history that have contributed to our society. He talks about there's mounds of people that have, I'll see if I can find the page. It says, do you think I'm the only one with dyslexia superpowers? Think again. There's a long list of famous and successful people with dyslexia. And then he talks about these famous people, and there's mountains of superpowers and these with all of these skilled people that we know about. And then he also acknowledges that it doesn't feel like a superpower every day. We have had feedback from people that said, it doesn't feel like that for us. And so I want to honor that too, and point out that, yeah, for him, every day it doesn't feel like a superpower, and that things don't always come easy, but that is true for all of us. And so we can, in the story, he leverages his strengths and finds where he can soar, and then encourages the reader to do the same.
So along with that, you've talked about getting some feedback. Is there any memorable feedback you've had that you'd share with us?
I think originally our local community gave us great support and feedback. Our library interviewed us, and then wrote an article for the community that shared dyslexia resources that are available to them at their library, and also highlighted our book. And so that was encouraging, just to see these domino effects where awareness continues to spread. Our local NBC affiliate also contacted us and interviewed my son. And they shared an incredible story and segment. They had a phrase that they said that we were reshaping or looking at dyslexia in a new way, and that we want to encourage others to do that too. So that was really encouraging, hearing from our local community, and then also just notes from people all over the world that have read our book. And some have said this could be a manual for my own child. Like this is our story too. So that's been really heartwarming, and that's the reason why we wrote the book, is to connect with other people.
Sorry, I'm trying to see what question I'd like to ask you next. So I've got so many questions for you, but let's see. How can books like yours help teachers, classmates, and friends better understand what it means to have dyslexia?
That's a great question. I would say those are in different categories. So maybe teachers and educators and adults, to see that there is a lot of work to do. I don't want to focus on the negative, but I want to focus on what we can do. And so there's just a lot of change that does need to happen in our schools, and to see the strengths of these children and honor that, and then also see where they need the correct support. I would like them to see it more as giving them the access they need to soar, versus to view them as a struggling student. When thinking about that book that we picked up that talked about struggles, I think just looking at us as adults to see how we can reach those kids. I mean, it's not on them to do that, it's on us. So I hope it encourages and just brings up more conversation about the topic with adults. And then as far as friends and other children, just to normalize dyslexia. They think up to 20% of people are dyslexic, and it's really not anything new. And to cut out language that's negative, describing someone who might be dyslexic, and instead look at all the great things about their friend, and that they might have just learned to read in a different way. So I guess I would hope different groups take different things from it.
Great. I think that last part too is very powerful when our kids, our dyslexic kids' friends have a better understanding how much, they can connect that way, I think is great. So I like I said, I love the book. For parents who are just starting their dyslexia journey, what advice do you have for them?
I think that, first of all, if someone would come to me, I would listen first to them to understand and analyze where they are in the journey, because it can be overwhelming and a lot to learn when you have no idea. I didn't know anything about dyslexia. I just knew that my son was bright and was learning to read differently, and it wasn't going well. And that spurred on this whole change for me. I read books that were helpful, and then I became more involved in my local International Dyslexia Association branch that is really incredible. And so what that looked like early on was me learning, and then through my learning and my own journey, then I'm able to share with others. So specific things I would say are realize that you are your own child's advocate. I think initially I looked around to see who else was going to help me here. And then I realized it's me, and I want to be that for my child, but I needed to educate myself. So the first book that I read was The Dyslexic Advantage, and that I just saw my son in every page. So I would say educating yourself with reading books like that, or especially Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz out of the Yale Center of Dyslexia and Creativity, that sets the stage for everything else that you're about to learn. Those two books, and then also becoming active in finding support wherever you are. And so for me, that was here in Kansas City, and finding different groups that I could be a part of to learn. And then pay attention to people that are in your path that might give you some nuggets of information and you can piece it together. For example, I didn't think he had dyslexia, and I just trusted what I was told at our school. And I had different people come in my path to say, trust your gut, trust your gut. And if you think it's worth looking into, then it's worth looking into. So I would just encourage parents that are on that journey at first, trust yourself and start learning and gathering information to learn more.
Great advice. I love that. I think that's the key. We hear that a lot, trust your gut, but I think we need to hear it more as parents. We see things that the educators or other people might not see on a daily basis. So I love that. So do you have any plans or projects related to future books or dyslexia awareness?
Right now, we have different things that come across our radar. I say because this seems like a family, mission that we have. My son is vocal, and he is happy to share with other kids about what has helped him. I don't know right now for other books. The timing of this made sense. We saw a need. My boys were interested in doing that, and I wanted to show them that they can do things to create change. So it was a perfect time for that book. Right now, we don't have this story that we feel like needs told in this manner, but you never know. You never know if something else would come up.
Well, thank you for all your time, but I just wanted to ask you one final question. What's one thing you'd like our listeners to remember after reading your story?
I would like listeners or readers to know that they aren't alone, and there's a network out there of people that have gone before them, and that there is another side to this journey when it feels difficult. I don't, the journey doesn't end. You just advocate in different ways, or your child learns to advocate for different ways, different things that they need. But knowledge is power. So once you are informed and understand your child more, the journey becomes much easier. And I would also encourage them to foster and leverage the strengths that their children have, because sometimes traditional school doesn't see that or highlight that because of the system. So just know that your child has a lot of gifts, and just keep encouraging them. And then those maybe emotions that don't feel very comfortable right now, use those to be your child's advocate and to help others and spread awareness.
Well, thank you again for joining us today, and for sharing your story. I think Sandra was so excited about this discussion today, because she really is a very big fan. And it's because the book that your family you developed really spoke to her kids, and in a way that met them where they're at, not just with dyslexia, but what their interests are and their graphic novel style. And anyway, I think it's really special. And just, like what we talked about before, when you saw a need based on your own experience, you jumped into action. And I love that. Even if you don't know where to start, just start taking some steps and getting there and figuring it out. Anyway, but thank you again for joining. We'll have in our show notes a link to order the book, and we'll continue our series with dyslexia awareness. And we really appreciate your time joining us as we kind of spread the word and advocate for dyslexia.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for everything you're doing. Happy Dyslexia Awareness Month.
Thank you for joining us for another story in Apricot Tree Academy's Dyslexia Awareness Month podcast series. We hope today's conversation helped you feel seen, inspired, and reminded that no family is alone on this journey. Every story shared brings us one step closer to better understanding, better support, and brighter futures for children with dyslexia. If you'd like to learn more about how to support your child at home, visit apricottreeacademy.com for free resources, parent guides, and our dyslexia intervention curriculum designed especially for families. And if this episode resonated with you, please share it with another parent or educator who could use some encouragement today. Together, we can raise awareness, change perceptions, and empower every child to reach their full potential.